If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it, New York.
So, the Kyrie Irving era in Brooklyn is over. After the star point guard requested a trade out of Brooklyn, the Nets shipped Kyrie and Markieff Morris to Dallas in exchange for former Net, now again current Net, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, a 2029 unprotected first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. Irving's arrival with Kevin Durant to Brooklyn came with a lot of attention. Both stars spurned the Knicks and declared the Nets the new team of New York City, the new cool team of New York. But the duo shared minimal success on the court together. They had injuries, suspensions, sit-outs because of the vaccine. And because of all that, they played just 74 regular season games together. They won just one playoff series in their 3.5 years together in Brooklyn. Dallas now pairs Kyrie with superstar Luka Doncic. So the hope is that they can keep Kyrie on the right track and make a run at a title. Though the one thing I did read last time I was following up on the story, that there is no intention to sign Kyrie to any extension right now. There's a chance that he could very well just be a rental for this season, which is extremely fascinating considering that gamble that Dallas made, giving up 2 quality players. Meanwhile, attention in Brooklyn turns to Kevin Durant to see if he will want to stick it out with the Nets, team that he had requested a trade from this summer, and then rescinded that trade request and decided to recommit to the organization. So a lot happening, and we will talk about how this impacts the Knicks moving forward, because the Knicks do have Dallas's picks. That's something to think about. But first, just on the Kyrie Irving part of this and the Kyrie's time in the city, how would you best summarize it?
Big three. When they got together, when the Nets traded for Harden, there was talk. And I quickly Googled it on Saturday. They ranked the best big three of all time, and this Bleacher Report article had them ahead of I think it was like Magic, Kareem, and Worthy, but behind Harden, Bird, Parrish, and McHale. It's just ridiculous. Ultimately, they end up playing 16 games together. Win one playoff series, 2 first rounds, basically since the 2019, since Kyrie arrived, 2 first round sweeps, 1 first round, 1 playoff victory, 1 Alex Jones Instagram post, one anti-Semitic film that's promoted, 3 trade demands, 2 vaccinations, just a nightmare, an incredible turn of events. Which leads me to just to be absolutely shocked that teams are still willing to roll the dice on Kyrie Irving. I thought Nets did a great job getting value back from Dallas. I love the trade from Brooklyn's perspective. You get Spencer Dinwiddie, who is now healthy, playing well, and has succeeded in Brooklyn. Dorian Finney-Smith's a fantastic role player, great defender. Dallas is going to miss him a ton on the defensive end. So just from a Brooklyn perspective, you create more minutes for Edward Sumner and Ken Thomas, who exploded for 44 points in the first game without Kyrie, and just getting off of the toxic headache that is Kyrie Irving is addition by subtraction from my perspective for Brooklyn. And I'm certainly not going to speak for Net fans, but wouldn't you rather almost win? Rather lose with Sumner and Cam Thomas and the young guys and a good team you can root for than win with a playoff round or 2 with Kyrie Irving. I'd be interested to see how Net fans feel. I think they defended him for a long time because he was on their team. Now I think they can finally let their vengeance out. From the Dallas perspective, the first thing I thought of was last January. So basically 12 months ago, the Brunson family, Rick and Jalen, were willing to sign a 4-year, $55 million extension with the Mavericks. This is not speculation. Rick Brunson has gone on record. I believe it was in a Chris Hayes article interview, but he has gone on record saying we were willing to sign that contract. The Mavs were discussing the same contract extensions with Finney-Smith and Brunson. Dallas declined. They said, "No, we're going to give us another month or so. We might trade. If we trade Brunson, is that contract prohibitive in a deal? We're trying to, make a deep run this year. We're not sure about his long-term fit with next to Luka Doncic, etc." So right before the deadline, I think they came back and they realized they weren't going to make a deal, and they said, "Okay, Jalen, we'll do it. 4 years, 55." You cool with that? He said, "Nah, I'm straight." Brunson, Doncic had missed basically 3 weeks. Brunson went into the starting lineup, averaged like 24 and 7. We know we've seen what happened. Second half of the season, Brunson plays even better. Playoffs, Brunson, averages 35 over the first 3 games against Utah. Dominates Donovan Mitchell, interestingly enough. This offseason, as we know, comes to New York. Mavericks. So instead of signing Brunson for 4 years, $55 million, 13 months later, they trade Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, an unprotected 2029 pick. Some fans were saying, well, yeah, it's 5 years down the line. Who cares? No, that means there's a greater likelihood that Doncic will not be in Dallas by the time that pick can be.
Exactly.
2 second rounders for a player that's quite frankly has not been as good, not nearly as consistent or reliable as Jalen Brunson. So from a Dallas perspective, a massive gamble, one I certainly would not have taken. The Mavs have one of the preeminent talents to come into the NBA in my lifetime. Luka Doncic has a chance to be one of the 5 greatest players to ever set foot on an NBA basketball court. No player in league history has played as well over the first 5 years of their career as Doncic has. He's just that good. Multiple MVPs in the Spanish ACB league before he came. This guy's credentials are second to none. His shot making, his just gutsy, the way he approaches the game. If he ever gets in great shape, that's a big caveat there. Again, he has a chance to be one of the best players we've ever seen, certainly of his generation. To introduce, to bring in that player, in that environment, a player as toxic as Kyrie Irving, I thought is organizational malpractice. Could it work out? Sure. Anything's possible in the NBA. The one saving grace, I think, from the Mavs perspective is getting off Finney-Smith's money, it's not a bad contract by any means, but getting off his money and getting off Dinwiddie's, he has 1 year left on his contract, was only partially guaranteed, does allow the Mavs to enter next offseason with basically max cap space, should they choose to part ways with Kyrie Irving, which I would suggest they do, no matter how well he plays for the next few months. Again, people are saying, well, he has to prove himself before he hits free agency. He needed to do that in Brooklyn. That was the one saving grace of him coming back for one season was, oh, well, he'll be on his best behavior. The dude, tweets out a link to an anti-Semitic film, tweets Alex Jones, refuses to apologize for it, gets suspended. They come, then finally returns, shuts up for a couple weeks. The Nets win, basically go on like a 12-1 streak. They look like they be championship contenders. Kyrie says the reason we're playing better is because we're not allowing that outside noise. I'm such a great leader. I'm not allowing it. A week, 5 minutes later, he demands a trade, makes it public. The morning of the trade says, I may not, leaks that he may not play the rest of the season if they don't trade him, further tanking his value. This is a guy, keep in mind, it's important to remember, 2018, 2 years in Boston, the Celtics had a better record, had a higher winning percentage in the games he did not play than the games he did play his 2 years in Boston. His 4 years with New Jersey, 4 years with Brooklyn. The Nets have a higher winning percentage in the games he did not play than the games he has played. Yet teams are still enticed by that layup package and the really cool in and out dribbles, and are willing to give up all these terrific assets. And it wasn't just the Mavericks. Shockingly, the Lakers were willing to give up their 27 and 29 picks. The Suns with Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and draft capital. I'm shocked that teams have not learned their lessons with this guy. He's not someone you can count on. He's not somebody you can rely on. He's told you that over and over and over again. It's the girl that's really cute and really attractive, but she cheats on every boyfriend she has. But the guy still tells his buddy, listen, I'll change her. We'll make it work. She'll be loyal to me. Good luck to Dallas is all I can say.
Wow. Tommy letting the chopper ring. Did not expect all that, but definitely let him fire, man. Look, here's what I will say. First of all, before I even get to my point, I do think that we just got word from James Dolan, who James Dolan came out of woodworks. He wants to say some words about this now that Brooklyn and the era of Kyrie Irving and the scary hours era is officially over. This is James Dolan.
Rest in peace to all my ops. Okay, that's enough. Now we really celebrating.
Okay, I'm joking. That's not James Dolan. That's Carmelo Hayes, WWE NXT superstar. Oh wait, no. This right here is James Dolan. Finally, my bad. Hit the wrong sounder. This is James Dolan on the Kyrie Irving trade.
Tell me a little something, KD. Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Okay, of course that was not James Dolan as well. That was a random dude during the side talk video. But look, that is the feeling of a lot of Knicks fans. I mean, a lot of people are dancing on their grave. A lot of R.I.P. Bozo for Kyrie Irving himself, who talked so much about even the season when they beat the Knicks. He said, "I love beating the Knicks," which is like, okay, dude. And then all the comments over the years about how the Nets were going to take over the city and this was going to be a new era of New York City basketball. So all that's done. In terms of the trade from the Nets in Mavs standpoint, I think the Mavs, so much of this is, I think, beyond even basketball sense. I think a lot of it is you have a superstar who knows he doesn't have enough offensive help. So sometimes it's just trying to show them that, hey, we're trying to get you offensive help. We'll get you another star to pair with you. Because these guys, they seem to think that this is the way to win in the NBA nowadays. So I think a lot of that has to do with really trying to entice Luka to say, hey, we're not a dumpster fire. And here, like, here's a star. And now you have a real shot to win because you have Kyrie Irving. All the points you make about the numbers and teams being better without him suggest maybe this isn't the earth-shattering news in terms of on-the-court success for Dallas that it may suggest, given Kyrie's pedigree as being a guy who's a former NBA champion, a guy with maybe the biggest shot in NBA history. But still, I think that a lot of that's a lot of what this is. And if you got a shot at it, I think you got to show Luka that you're trying. I do think from the Nets standpoint, this is a pretty decent return. I mean, at 2029 unprotected first, that's a big gamble for Dallas to give that up. Now, maybe they have a better sense that Luka's not going anywhere than I do. You hope they do because he's in their facility, he's in their organization. But I mean, this Dallas thing has felt like for even after last year's run to the conference finals, it's felt like for a couple of years now they've kind of been treading there and spinning their wheels. So this idea that they're going to turn it around and they're going to be a championship contender and Luka will be content to stay, I'm not totally convinced of that. So you get that 29 first round pick, that's big. And then for the Nets and these players, I mean, Justin Dinwiddie's a guy that, played well for them when he was there. He's played better since he got to Dallas. He was terrible in Washington. He played well. He's got to Dallas. I've always really liked Dorian Finney-Smith. Really good defender, really good shooter. He's the kind of guy you can win with. So there are nice pieces to get after losing Kyrie Irving. Do I think the Nets now have a chance to come out of the East? No, I don't. I think that they're still, I think, a worse team losing Kyrie Irving in the sense that on the court, I think that in these playoff series against these top teams, I wanted the main shot makers that you could possibly have. So KD having to kind of carry the load offensively, I don't think that's going to be much of a recipe success for this team. But I do think that there is now a foundation there to maybe build upon this team with these assets, whether it's moving these guys for somebody else or moving some of the guys they got in their team to get some other star or whatever. So it's not all lost in Brooklyn, but definitely a blow and definitely quite the embarrassment considering all the hoopla that came with the Irving move to Brooklyn.
I think if I'm a Nets fan, I'm more confident in my team advancing to the conference finals, making a deep run in the playoffs today than I was on Saturday. I just can't rely on Kyrie. Keeping Kyrie Irving past the deadline assumes that he's going to play again. Assume that he's not going to take 2 weeks off at some point. It assumes,
right.
Again, and as you noted in our previous podcast, he's going to stay healthy. This guy that had injury issues. And as far as it's a Knicks podcast, obviously, as far as the Knicks impact, from the Knicks own the Mavericks first round pick this season. It's top 10 protected, so it will almost certainly convey, will it be 19, 17, 22? Is there a better chance that the Mavs have a stronger finish to the rest of the regular season? I suppose so. Kyrie Irving will be motivated, I guess. But who's that backcourt going to stop? Like, when are they going to get stops in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter, especially in the postseason? Kyrie and Luka are going to defend. You give up your best perimeter defender in DFS. Again, I thought they had a good recipe for success with a guy, kind of a Jalen Brunson type player who's not going to demand the ball, will defer to Luka when they share the floor together, and Luka rests, then he can kind of take over the offense. Is Kyrie going to be? I'm sure they'll stagger minutes at some point and maybe get Luka some much needed rest. That could certainly be a benefit. But I just don't see in fourth quarters how these guys are going to share the floor together. Will Kyrie have a 50-point game for the Mavs? I think so, probably. If I had to bet.
Right.
But again, I can't count on this man, this individual, because he's proven to me again and again and again and again that when the chips are down, he's not the. Did he hit a big shot against the Cavs? Was he awesome in that series with the Cavs against the Warriors? Absolutely. But that's what the Celtics told themselves when they made a big trade for him. It didn't work out. That's what the Nets told themselves when they signed him, and that's what they told themselves again when he disappointed their first season. And that's what they told themselves again when he disappointed the second season. That's what he disappointed again when he got injured and refused to get vaccinated, which forced the Nets to trade James Harden for Ben Simmons, who's who's lost right now. Again, wherever this guy has gone, we have 5 years. We have a body of evidence of 5 years now where it hasn't worked out. Could it work out? And maybe the Mavs make a short-term bet. Could it work out for 4 months? Certainly. He's just that talented. I'll never doubt his offensive brilliance because he is just that brilliant. But if I'm wagering, if I have a superstar in place in Luka Doncic, for me, it made sense for the Lakers to roll the dice on the toxicity that is Kyrie Irving, because they're the 13th seed in the West. They basically they have nothing to lose. LeBron's 38. AD, who knows how long you're going to have him in house. So for a team like the Lakers, I thought it made some sense. Even a team like the Suns, it seems like they're obviously trending in the wrong direction. Maybe to shake things up and get back on track, that could make some sense. But for a team like the Mavs with a generational talent of Luka Doncic, to try to delude themselves and convince themselves that Kyrie will play hard for us and not cause any waves, I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's a gamble. It is a major gamble. It's a gamble that again, I understand because of the implications of, hey, now you can tell Luka you got him a star, but it's Kyrie Irving. so it's like there's a big but when you tell Luka that you got him another star. The one thing I will say when it comes to the Knicks and how this affects the East, one, the Dallas pick, we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to freak out. I know some Knicks fans were kind of freaking out that, this is Dallas's pick and Knicks have that pick. So will that, get, will that, worsen the value of the pick? I mean, we just have to see. I mean, they're going to have to play these games. It's not like there's we kind of forget there's not that many games left in the season. There's like only 28, 29 games left in the season for most teams. So even if they do play great, I don't see them going from this being the 20th pick to the 30th pick or anything like that. You're talking about maybe a 4 or 5 team move probably in terms of where this will be. The other thing as well is 2 other quick notes. One, this is a net team that I think Knicks will want to face in the postseason now. Like, we got to talk about these matchups that could happen with some of these top teams. And we saw Philly and how the Knicks can match it with them. Knicks have won 2 out of 3 against them this year. If you're talking about a net team without Kyrie Irving and it's just Kevin Durant, if you're talking about Philly, you're talking about Boston, who we think will probably win, but let's say they slip. Who's the other team? Cleveland, or some of these other teams that Knicks could play. If they're talking about a 2-7, 3-6 matchup, Milwaukee, obviously. Brooklyn's the team I'm running to because they're a team that now has a massive change in their team. So you're talking about the chemistry being thrown off already, and now you're banking on only one Kevin Durant, and you don't know what his health's going to be. He's coming back from this knee injury, taking him a little longer than we thought. So I do wonder in terms of how Brooklyn kind of holds the standings. One, if Knicks can move up. But if there's a matchup that happens now, I wouldn't know no part of Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving. Now, if you're talking about a Nets matchup, I want all the smoke with Nets.
I respectfully disagree. We saw
Really?
how poorly Kyrie played in the first. I think the last 4 games of that last 3 games that of the sweep against the Celtics last season, he shot like 36% from floor, averaged
Yeah.
17 points. I think. Again, they got swept. I'd rather have. I don't want to say I'd rather, but I don't think there's a massive downgrade. You can play Sumner, give you some defense. Cam Thomas can give you 30 points. You bring in Dinwiddie, who's more than capable to. He plays well on the big stage. He's not going to back down. He loves playing against the Knicks. DFS is a great perimeter defender. Again, like fantasy wise, I'd much rather have Kyrie, but like from a team chemistry standpoint, Nick Claxton's playing at a much better level. I don't want to play any of those top teams. And if I had to choose, I'd probably still pick the Nets because they don't have that home run. Kyrie gives them that home run hitter that can take over in the fourth quarter, as we saw Kyrie dominate New York last week. So again, but I don't think there's a massive swing one way or the other. I really think the Nets did a good job kind of patching holes with their ceiling is maybe not be as high, but I think their floor is a little bit higher, and they'll be more consistent over the rest of the second half of the season.
And one final thing. NBA, do the right thing. Put Jalen Brunson in the All-Star game. Kyrie Irving, not officially a Western Conference player. He could take Steph Curry's spot. That opens up the spot for the East. Jalen Brunson and James Harden had their, WWE style eliminator, winner gets into the All-Star game match, and Jalen Brunson was declared the winner. So therefore, he should get that spot. That has to be how this goes. Let's get Jalen Brunson to Salt Lake City. He showed in that game as well. He deserves to be an All-Star. And he had we kind of glossed over it because we didn't talk about Saturday. He had a monster performance on Saturday. 41 points. I mean, he was a killer on Saturday. I mean, he definitely is an all-star this year. Let's hope he gets in.
41 points on 19 field goal attempts. First player in Knicks history, more than 40 points, fewer than 20 shots to go along with 5 rebounds, 5 assists Saturday night. And we barely batted an eye. That's how good Jalen was in the season.
Incredible.